All right, let's start. If you could take your seats, please. Okay, first things first. Who do we have here that's new? I have to give you this microphone or else nobody watching online will hear anything.
Hi, my name is Robert. My call sign is K6RVJ. I've been a technician for about 11 months now, and I just recently, this past week, got my radio installed in my Jeep Gladiator.
Cool. Well, welcome.
My name is Paul, KD4UPD, and I've been around for a while, and it's my first meeting here.
Welcome. Yeah, I've been around for a while too. Longer than I want to admit. Anybody else new? No? You were too close. I couldn't see it.
Bob Chisholm, N7PXM, coming back after 2 years.
Good. Welcome. Okay, who has upgraded since we met last? Come on, don't be shy. Raise your hands. I'm not sitting down until I see some hands.
Does remarriage count?
No, unfortunately it doesn't. Okay, nobody has upgraded, huh? All right. Too bad for you. What do we got going on for classes?
We just finished our second week of technician class. It's still not too late to join. If anybody out there would like to get into the class, we'd be glad to have you. We can get you up to speed and help you out in any way. So get in touch with me, ki7mti@arrl.net, or you can get in touch with James back here, kk7avs at gmail.com. If you want answers, I'll give them to you. If you want correct answers, talk to James.
Perfect. Thanks, Mike. Okay, got to get back to my cheat sheet here. What's the update? Somebody can probably tell me what's the update on field day. I understand there's a road out on the loop.
Well, let's see here. All right. See here, since I'm running the camera, it's hard for me to get on it. But let's see, Brett Sutherland and 7KG went up Payson Canyon today. He did run across road closed signs, but that's because they were pulling fiber on the road. But the road, at least on the north side of the loop, is apparently open all the way to pretty much all the way to the top. We don't know anything about the southern side, but he would know because there's the scout camp that's up there. And he tried to get up there today and turned back because of the signs. But he talked to somebody who would know, and they assure him that as of now, the road is fine. But that road has slipped twice since we've been doing field day up there, so we really can't count on anything. So we'll just have to watch it.
And I will mention again as well, we would certainly welcome some help to come up and set up. You're going to have to be there early, however, so if you want to do that, just plan on it, okay? Thursday, yep. Let's see, what else about field day? It's about all, I guess, huh?
There's a whole, if they want to know where to go, repeat this for the microphone.
Yeah.
You can find the link on the main UARC page.
Right.
Map and everything.
Yeah, there's a link on the website with a map, directions how to get there, all that stuff.
Be in the next one.
It'll be in the next microvolt as well. Good, thank you. Jerry?
Mark, it's probably good to mention to everybody, if you don't get help, we're not going to be able to do field day.
Okay.
If you're interested in helping, reach out to a board member and
Give them the microphone. Give them the microphone.
Well, I was going to repeat it, but that's okay. No. Here, you'll do it better than me anyway.
So for field day, we really do need volunteers. If field day is going to come off, we've got to have some people. Please, if you're interested or able in any way, shape, or form, please reach out to a member of the board, and all of our numbers are in the inside page of the microvolt.
Good, thanks, Jerry. One of the concerns that I have is that guys like me aren't going to be around for a long time, and so, we're really looking to train some people up to carry on after we can't do it anymore. So, if you're the least bit willing, want to come up, learn what we do to set up, that would be a great thing. Okay, Rick, what's up with the store?
Well, we have one copy left of the 9th edition of the General Class Manual. You can get it now for $25 instead of $33. The 10th edition apparently is not yet out. I just checked earlier this evening. The ARL website says it's out of stock. Presumably never has been in stock. So also we have a 2021 and a 2020 ARL handbook. If you're here and want to discuss markdown price, come see me. Thanks.
Thanks, Rick. Yeah, please peruse the store. If there are any league publications that you want that he does not have, he will special order them for you. Or any other announcements I need to bring up before we start? Okay, in that case, going once, going twice?
Is there anything about steak fry?
I don't have anything about steak fry.
Do we do anything about steak fry?
We got a date.
Do we have a reservation?
Yes.
Okay.
What's the date?
Here.
Okay.
This is how I get my exercise. I come to this meeting.
Not quite sure where our reservation is. It's the third Saturday in July. You got a calendar somewhere. Seems like the 19th, but I.
15th.
Okay.
At the Spruces, right?
At the Spruces.
Repeat what it is that we're talking about.
The annual steak fry. We hold it at the Spruces up Big Cottonwood Canyon, assuming we can get there. With all the mudslides and whatever. Hopefully they'll have those cleared up by then. And we start early afternoon. We eat when the food's ready, which probably be 4 or 5-ish. And have a good time every year. We haven't discussed it yet. We probably will next week on the prices, but I think it was $15 last year.
Mark?
Jerry?
And so the programming committee is interested in starting a little early and having an Elmer event to try and bring some of our new members out. And so we're looking for individuals who might want to do some hands-on Elmering, help people get their radios set up, things like that might come up. So again, please reach out to a member of the programming committee. We're in the inside page of the microvolt.
Ta-da! And Mel.
I'd just like to say a word about the VHF Society. We sent out a survey to all of the members asking about whether or not they would support us joining the Arizona Amateur Radio. It's the Arizona Repeater Association, and we're going to propose that we link our system with their system all the way down to Phoenix. So far, we've had an overwhelming yes to that response. If you haven't voted, please, please do so. If you're a member and haven't picked up your booklet for this year, please come and see me. If you're not a member, we have a good deal. If you'd like to join for 1 year, we'll give you a year and a half of membership free for the remainder of this year. So come and see me after the meeting if you're interested in joining the society.
Year and a half. Next year, I'm going to wait. Okay. Anything else? Plan on coming to steak fry. Steak fry is one thing I never miss, and I'm even a vegan. They think I'm kidding. Okay, let's go on to our program then. First of all, Dennis Nelson, N7FOD, is going to talk to us for a few minutes about installing radio transceivers in vehicles.
Dennis here.
You're going to be Dennis today.
Yeah, this is a classic example of bait and switch. Now, I got you all down here to see this presentation. Let's go with the first slide. Poor Dennis, he is sick tonight, so I wish him well. But my name is Mike, KI7MTI, and I'm the one who worked with Dennis to get this presentation off the ground. And I'm now the proud owner of a harness that goes from my battery to my radio. So this is the story. Next slide. So why do I need to put a direct connection into the battery? Why can't I just power my radio by plugging it into the cigarette lighter? Next slide. Okay, this is what my plug-in looked like before I got the conversion. And there are many reasons why this is a bad idea. And a few of these ideas, anybody want to venture a guess? What would be a bad idea for, go ahead.
Limited amperage on the plug-in.
Repeat what he said.
You have a limited amperage on that plug-in.
That's one good reason. Any other reasons?
Can't light your cigarette.
Can't light your cigarette. Well, hopefully you're not smoking anymore. That's become a kind of a no-no. But I suppose there's still a few people that might use that as an excuse. Let's go to the next slide. Oh, well, you skipped one. There we go. When the radio is directly wired to the battery, there's less chances of overloading your wires, overloading the cigarette. What is it? Plug? Yes, thank you. In your vehicle, so that's one good reason why you don't want to. You don't want to blow fuses. Let's see. That's another reason is that the current is not always returned from the cigarette lighter to the battery with a copper wire. Sometimes it goes through the chassis. Thank you. And so, another thing I've heard is that there's more of a chance of hum on the signal. Yes.
A couple of reasons. One is the connection inside may be corroded if somebody has used it to light cigarettes. And so it'll be not a reliable connection. Second is sometimes the cigarette lighter jack has to be alive with the ignition switch. So if you're parked, it might not work.
Thank you. Yes, two good reasons. Another thing is that most commercial two-way radio manufacturers will install high-powered stereo equipment in directly to the battery with double fuses. So if they're doing that, it's probably a good idea that we do it as well. Let's go to the let's stay with that slide there. The proper gauge wire is important for proper installation. Do not use smaller gauge wire for the harness than the gauge of the wire that came with your radio. One of the things is that we oftentimes install multiple radios in our vehicles, so you might need even a higher gauge wire like 10 or 8 in order to keep from overloading the harness. Let's go with the next slide. Copper wire and copper terminals and splices are best for conducting electricity through the harness. Since copper terminals can be difficult to find for 12-gauge wire, I made my own copper terminals by using quarter-inch copper tubing and just pounding it out and drilling the hole. So that's one thing that you might use. Once the terminals and splices were soldered to the wires, I shrink wrapped them and then covered them with electric tape. Let's go with the next slide, please. And there's Dennis, who directed this whole show. He was a good sport in agreeing to do this, and he directed me on how to go about getting this all set up. So, and I do wish he was here today to take the heat rather than me, but that's just the way it is. I'm glad I had an extra set of cue cards, by the way. That worked out good. Now I was fortunate enough to find another ham that was able to show me where to put the wire through the firewall. Yeah, I'll get it there sooner or later. He happened to have the same model truck as mine, and it was fairly easy. And it went through a gasket, and the gasket was big enough to be able to do that without having to actually drill through the metal. But if you have to drill through metal, you want to get a gasket to go around the rough edges of the metal. Grommet. You're right, thank you. Grommet. I'll just let you do this. And so that the vibrations in the vehicle won't chafe the wire and cause a short. Let's go with the next slide. Now you want to feed the wires through the hole. Once the wires are in the passenger compartment, you want to put on the connectors first before wiring it to the battery, and that should be obvious why you would want to do that. Go ahead with the next slide, please. When connecting the batteries, the wire to the battery, you want to connect the red wire first before connecting the ground, and that's to keep from getting a spark that might, at worst case, just totally surprise you. At best case, could cause harm.
Better thing is to install the fuses after you connect the wire.
You could do that, yes. Clint says install the fuses after connecting the wire. That might be a good idea as well. Okay, and then next slide is tie everything down securely inside and out with zip ties and plug in the radio. If you did a good job, you won't see any smoke and sparks coming out of your radio. And the last slide, that's all, folks. Thank you very much for your attention. Are there any questions that anybody have any questions here? Yes, go ahead, Ferris.
Yeah. With regards to some of the newer vehicles, is there a way to prevent, you know how the engine stops? Every time mine does, the radio goes off when it starts back up again.
The only thing I can think of would...
Repeat the question.
Okay. Ferris asked if there's, with newer cars, the engine will stop at when you're at a stop sign, and then when you start moving again, you put your foot on the gas, that comes back on. He has a problem, though. His radio goes silent at that point. And so he's asking if there's a way to prevent that. And the only way I can think of, Ferris, would be to put in an auxiliary battery.
No. That's why you are doing what you're doing. If you come off a hot from the battery directly through the interior of your car, you're bypassing the computer and the cutoff switches and all of that sort of thing.
Mine still shuts off. None of it's connected on the
Not
battery.
if it's connected directly to the battery.
Your battery goes dead every time you're...
Not my battery. My radio shuts off as soon as the engine kicks on again.
Oh, that.
I see. So the engine's starting up and then...
Radio starts
when
my engine kicks on.
A separate battery is the only thing you can do.
So you need an inline capacitor.
For that, yeah.
Okay.
And that'll do it.
I mean, I can push the button so it doesn't shut off on my car, so the engine doesn't.
If the battery voltage drops about 10.5 volts. So it could be an older battery.
It's dropping the...
No. It's when the car starts.
Yeah.
Right.
But when your starter is kicking in, it's dropping the voltage below what the radio.
Gotcha.
And so by putting an inline capacitor in there, you're going to store a little bit of power to carry through.
Okay.
That restart.
Okay. Thank you.
And what Jerry just said is by putting in an inline capacitor, that should solve the drop in voltage when the vehicle starts up again. Yes, sir?
There are a couple of other things that are super important.
Here, let me give you the, hold on. I'm going to give you the microphone and you can tell us all about it.
Oh, no problem. A couple of things that are really important is, one, you want to, whether you know about it or not, it's the I²R losses. And also, you don't want to develop any ground loops. When you start using your car body as the other half of the path, you're automatically throwing ground loops into the equation. So that's why you want to use a gauge of wire that's larger than you think you need.
That cannot be avoided if you have a coax cable.
True. But as far, from a power standpoint, with the losses, you can actually get a drop in the voltage, which could be the culprit causing your radio to reset as well. So if you get a direct line from the battery and don't start sharing body parts as part of the path, you're a lot better off. But I'd start there. I'd never use that. And the other problem you have is with a ground loop. It's just a beautiful way to get noise into your system, all kinds of ground floor noise in the radio.
Thank you.
I just wanted to mention that years ago I had an old Alinco dual bander that if I forgot and left it running when I ran the starter motor, it was the spikes from the starter motor, not a drop in voltage, that bothered the radio. So if you were to be able to put an oscilloscope or whatever on your 12-volt line and watch it when your starter engages, there's huge voltage spikes on that 12-volt line. So what I did was I went and got a 20-amp, they called it a stereo noise eliminator kit. It has a choke and a capacitor. In fact, some of the Kenwood radios come standard with that choke. It's a toroid wound with a bunch of turns of wire that will block those spikes from getting through to the radio. It works much better if you have a capacitor on the radio side of the choke, but the radio has one of those built in anyway. So that's one other solution you could look for. I wanted to mention, when I would do that, I knew it wasn't good for the radio because when I looked down, not only would it not receive or transmit, but there were strange characters on the display. So I knew the radio had not been happy.
That sounds bad. All right. Are there any other comments? Anybody have good advice for us on this topic?
Hey, Mike, can you hear me? I just have a question about that. Did you wire up yours so that you can use the radio when the vehicle is off? And how would you avoid running down the battery if you forget about it? Do you think? What'd you decide?
Okay. Yes, I did. I wired it so that. Let's see. I better look at the camera. You don't have the camera back there. I can't see Gary.
We can't see you unless you look at the camera.
Oh, okay. I did wire it directly to the battery, and the only way that you can keep from running down the battery if you forget to turn off the radio is to have a timeout timer set.
Auto power off.
Out of power. Okay. Out of power. That's the correct answer. Thank you. That answer your question there?
Yeah, sure did. You got to be. Yeah.
I hope that's the one that gets in the microvolt. Okay, any other questions? Yes.
Another solution is to
let me wait for it. Yeah.
separate switch.
We want to hear it from you.
Another solution is to have a separate switch for all the radios. So when you start the engine, the radio isn't connected to the circuit.
Thank you for that.
AAA membership for those who
That's a good suggestion too. Jerry suggests that we have a AAA membership if we're forgetful like me. I have a tendency to forget to turn off the radio from time to time. Okay, anyone else? Oh, we've got James in the back here. Let's, yeah, I can see what you mean about that exercise, Marv.
Well, Mike, this might go a little beyond the scope of a mobile radio installation, but you did show a picture of connectors. It looked like they were Anderson power poles. I'm not too terribly familiar with them. Is that what you would recommend to use? Is that going to be great for mobile installation? Is it a little bit more standard across what a lot of operators use for their radios? What do you think of that?
That's a good question. When I first got back into amateur radio, I had no idea of what to use to connect my equipment up. And I heard talk from a number of amateurs that suggested using the Anderson power poles. And the reason is that you can fix them so that you can connect them in the dark and you will not get them connected wrong. And I see that Mel has his hand up in the back and he has something important to tell us. So we're going to go back here and find out what it is.
This is a very important comment. Many, many years ago, the state of Utah and all the ARES groups in the state of Utah adopted the Anderson pole connectors as the standard connection for all radio equipment in emergency use. If you use the Anderson pole connectors and you're deployed somewhere and you need to plug into another power source, your Anderson connectors on your radio will plug into another power source that you can use. So it's wise to use Anderson pole connectors. Only one caution. You can set those up so that they can be hooked up easily in reverse polarity if you're not certain what you're doing. So you need to research the correct way to have your Anderson pole connectors set up.
Thanks for that comment there, Mel. That is true. And I never can remember which one should be on the right and which one should be on the left, or even which.
Red, right.
Who said that? Oh, there he is. Scott. Yeah. You know what? Yeah. Yeah, and the easiest way to remember is to look at one of my lines that already has the power poles on it, and then just make sure that the way I have it set will plug in correctly, and that works out good. Anyone else? Okay, I think we've gone through everything in this discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mike, and thank you, Dennis. Okay, I think you guys are all aware that we have 2 remote stations that the club operates. And today our main presentation, Gary Crum, KK7DV, who is one of the engineers that has worked on putting these remote stations together, is going to walk us through them. I understand that some of you that are here and use the remote stations will probably chime in as well. So I'll turn it over to Gary Crum.
Okay, thanks, Marv. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah. All right, Marv, can you hear me okay, everybody online? I assume so.
Yes, we're hearing you fine.
Okay, great. Okay, great. Yeah, I'm going to talk about the HF remote transceivers. These are transceivers in a remote area that we can all control. And going back in the history of UARC, so I'll kind of give you an introduction to the HF remotes for anyone new and not familiar with them, and then talk about kind of general usage, how you can make use of them, and then kind of get into any detailed questions. But I want this to be really casual. So I've invited a lot of people involved in the remotes, kind of developing them and also using them. And also just anybody, and if you have a question, don't feel free to interrupt. And so let's see. Oh, but in the history of UARC, I think going way back, there was a club station at the Red Cross building in Salt Lake. So this idea of having a radio club have lots of equipment and make it available to the members is not new. And then historically, some remote transceivers or remote bases, as they're sometimes called, are controllable over like FM on VHF with DTMF tones. So that's been one thing. But what we're talking about tonight are remotes that do have internet connections. So there is a dependency on internet there, but that gives you kind of on your screen of your computer or your smartphone device a lot of flexibility, almost as if the radio's right there, and yet it can have a really low noise floor and lots of good antennas, make use of the space and stuff like that. So let's see. I guess first I'll share my screen and maybe show you a few pictures and stuff like that. And host disabled participant screen sharing. Can you give me, there you go. Okay. Guess I'll show this screen here. All right. Do you see my screen? Maybe a few pictures on the screen. Do you see it?
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay, we have a number of work trips, like typically one around Memorial Day weekend, and we haven't had to go. Oh, this is talking about one of the 2 HF remotes. Maybe I should start with let's see. If you go to the UARC homepage, let me just do that, utaharc.org. Here on the left side, these different categories for information. One of them is HF remotes here. So see that? And that's kind of how to get started with the HF remotes. This shows the 2 that we've had, one at Leamington, which is in Juab County in central Utah. There's a town called Leamington, then there's a mountain range, the Canyon Mountains, just east of it. And that's where this remote is. It's right. This one is kind of all alone in this canyon, so there's not much around it. But anyway, there is one at Leamington. There's also one provided by Glenn, WA7X, who's joined this Zoom call tonight at his cabin way up above Fairview in Skyline Mountain Resort. So that's been down for a while. And if you go to like Glenn's page with cameras, the WA7X.com page, you can see why. So help me out, Glenn, here. All of you, if you want to help me out, do. But how do we read this snow stick cam? How much snow is up there right now, Glenn?
You read it backwards from 9 feet. If you see any of the snow sticks, it was up about 8 feet total this year, which is the highest it's ever been.
Okay, so that's 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3. So this is maybe getting down there to 3 feet of snow now. But yeah, there's so much snow down there. It kind of took out the internet link, which was a microwave link and some antennas. So that might come back, and Glenn may have future plans. It was really nice to have a second remote. These are both Kenwood TS480 transceivers with good antennas up there. But But anyway, so that one will be back. So it'll be back. So we'll have a alternate. But meanwhile, Leamington has been up for 5 years, and it's been great. And Leamington is at a former AT&T microwave site, and so these sites here, this is the site with this big bunker building and a big heavy duty tower, and it still has the horn antennas that were used for microwave long distance communications for AT&T back then. And let's see, I think I also saw, let's see, I think I saw Randy, WI7P, in the audience. Randy, do you want to say anything about the history of these sites? This one was obtained by the Olson family, who kind of used it as a home business site, and they got involved in ham radio just because the communications were so poor there. So UARC, as of 5 years ago, we put up the transceiver there. Does Randy want to say anything? He has another one up in Idaho, and so it's really neat that these sites became available, and that's where the HF remote is there.
So one time AT&T sold most of their sites to American Towers, and American Towers decided they didn't need them all, so they went up for bid. I was first aware of one, and I knew about the big tower at Leamington Pass, there's a pass, Scipio Pass, I think. That has 3 levels of storage. That was a manned site, has a very tall tower with beacons. I saw that and figured I didn't want to maintain that, even if you could afford it. And there's another site similar to that that's south of Delta that I don't know what its current status is. For a while, the system was still being used for part of it. My site up in Idaho was on the long distance link between Salt Lake and Seattle. I have a much smaller building than what Steve does, but basically in Steve's case, I think there was a fellow employee bought 3 of the sites and resold them to Steve. When I got mine, I had to keep putting in bids, and it took me about 3 years before they accepted one of my bids. They never listed how much they wanted for him, so he had a guess. And from what I can tell from a user group that was on the internet, they sold anywhere from what was it, $3,000 to $500,000. And some of them are on private land. Mine's on private land. This one in Leamington is also, but a lot of them are on BLM and Forest Service lands. And I've noticed that some of the Forest Service ones in Idaho have been torn down. They're not there anymore. So finding a private one was a real challenge. Is there any other questions about them? Yeah. Do you have any, Gary?
No, that's great. So yeah, so that's what Leamington uses, one of those sites, and it's just really remote and great with power. And let's see, I wanted to bring up, I accidentally closed my browser that had some pictures I wanted. Anyway, one of them is, there have been a couple fires that have passed through Leamington, and because the site is designed in such a heavy duty way, sorry, flipping through pictures here, see if I can find the one from that, it's able to withstand fire even if it passes right by the building. So it's just heavy duty like that. Right, Randy? Yeah. I'm not sure I'm going to, here's the one. So this kind of shows the Leamington site there. And right next to it, this last fire went right up to the ridge right next to it. But a previous year fire, it actually passed through, and the firefighters were using it as a staging point to fight the fire there in that canyon. There's just so little up there. This one came up from a farm field in Leamington that they just kind of let it burn and up to a firewall like this road through the canyon. So anyway, any other questions so far?
No, we're good.
Okay. Well, so let's talk about kind of using the remotes and what they do. I think the equipment there is just in a cabinet here with a computer running Windows, is on the internet through a 22-mile link, just a microwave link from the tower to Delta. And that so it has pretty good network connectivity there. And it's, so here's the HF remote, the Kenwood TS480 transceiver. And it has some interface boxes, a signal link to interface the audio signals, and another USB cable for controlling it to this USB hub, and it goes to this computer. So a Windows program called RC4B Server. RC4B stands for Remote Control Foundation for Online Remote Base. That's what controls the radio and makes it available to a bunch of users. So there's the radio right there. For a while, we put camera just to see, kind of get feedback. But the software, over internet protocols, kind of establishes a protocol that lets you see what's on the radio. And going back to this getting started site, if you want to start using it, this talks about there are guidelines for using the HF transceiver, but then there's this manual that Clint wrote, and it's about 20 pages that you read through, and it explains kind of specifically what our remotes do and how to get started using them. And so you have to be a member of UARC, and then you go to the remotehams.com, and right here, like in the instructions, and this site is for remotes all around the world to make use of them. And there's a sign up here. So you would do sign up and then register with your call sign as ID. So that's kind of how you get started. And then once you do that, you can install either software on Windows. It is only on Windows and not on Mac. There's no web interface with this Remote Hams RC4B software you're using. So you have to install this application on Windows called RC4B Client. There's also one that you can pay $10 for and get it on a smartphone, and then use the remotes from different places. But anyway, once you install this, it has a big long list of remotes here, and these are kind of ones I've made favorites. There's also, there's another remote that's been set up recently. We could just mention this is a Utah, since some of the links of the Intermountain Intertie are down, just to make it available. The Utah VHF Society has added a remote at the University of Utah that's just on an Intermountain Intertie repeater, 147.12. So if you want to get on the intertie and from some place where you have internet connectivity but aren't in range of an intertie repeater, then you can use that and transmit on 147.12. That's just an aside. But similar to that, this is just on that one frequency. There's no frequency agility here. But once you connect to these HF remotes, you have more full control over the radio. So here's the one for, you would just type like UARC here to find it. And here it is, the one for Leamington. And once you double click on that, it brings up the radio there. And let's see, if I turn up the volume, you can hear activity there. This is, I guess, on the 80 meter band, 3937 kilohertz. And so the farm that's going on.
You did not share your audio when you shared the screen, so we hear nothing.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's do it. Share audio.
That'd be a question that'd be a box you check as you.
Right. Yeah, I did it earlier.
So you'd have to unshare and reshare, I think.
Okay.
I'm not sure. Yeah, I think you have to reshare if you want to share the audio.
Okay. I'll do that. Here we go. Share screen. Share sound. There it is. Yep, just like you said. Okay. So if I turn up the volume now, can you hear that?
Good to hear you tonight. Sounding really good. W7DNI in Morgan, Utah.
So this is the RC4B client interface to controlling the radio. And the manual kind of goes over a lot of this, but I'll just kind of say, basically, you when you first connect, you'll want to, if you have there's a way to test out your audio to make sure your microphone, the right microphone that you're using, is selected. So on your system, there may be several speakers and microphones. So you might have to fiddle with audio. Who here has had audio problems when connecting with the remote? How about you? Is Mel or John there in the audience, or any of you?
I'm here. I've had some issues, but they were all ones that I was able to resolve by reading through Clint's nice booklet.
I can't hear you very well, Mel, but did you have a few problems at first, but you got them straightened out?
He said that the manual sorted it out.
Oh, good. So yeah, so that's good. And it's nice that we have audio levels here, yeah, for like volume, but also mic gain. So this graph here that's scrolling across, when you're receiving, it's showing the received audio, and when you're transmitting, it'll also show your microphone audio levels. So let's do that. Let's turn up the volume here.
KB7N and
maybe go to off frequency 5 kilohertz away. If it's available. It is. So then I'm gonna. Well, this is a good time to tune when you're on a frequency that's not in use. So I'm gonna tune, and this meter here can show when you're transmitting SWR or power output or automatic level control. I'm not sure what comp does. Anyone know?
That's
anyways,
Professor.
This is Kilo 7 Delta Victor testing, KK7DV testing. And so I can see SWR here is less than 1.2. So that's transmitting whenever I click this.
NM7P test.
NM7P. Okay, so here's another part. Mel got on this remote at the same time I'm
the volume down a little bit. It's competing with you.
Okay. I'll turn down the volume. So see this window here that's a chats panel? This shows who else is connected to the remote. And any one of us, I mean, there's a designated control operator. Since Mel transmitted a moment ago from his smartphone, it says control op NM7P. And he is one of the users here. This says A because I'm administrator, but also connected is Randy, WI7P. So thanks guys for helping out here. And if any of us, like Mel is the control operator. If I wanted to control, especially if I wanted to change frequency, like use the remote on a different frequency, I would probably, if you click this ask button, it just automatically sends a message, may I tune the remote? And that's sort of the key for if you want to use it, you just click ask and then Mel, if he wants, he could respond in the chat window if he notices it. Some people may be busy using the remote and not notice your message, so you might have to be persistent. Looks like here's a fourth person, KG7RDR, another guy that's helped out. Brett is also connected, so maybe Brett's watching. Brett, incidentally, 5 or 6 or 7 years ago, was the first one to suggest using this RC Forbes system, the remotehams.com. So thanks, Brett. But anyway, all 4 of us are connected, and if several of us wanted to check into like the same net, all we would have, the way I have it set up, any of us can transmit it, and you can transmit when it's your turn to check in. Otherwise, you do request control, and then you could, once they say okay, or if you time out waiting and it's clear that they're not actively using the remote, you can just start using it. And I could like click AB here, and it would switch to the other VFO, the 10 meter band. So let's go back to the 80 meter band. So anyway, it's possible to share the use of the remote pretty well. So that's been a good feature. Let's see. And a lot of these the buttons and the drop downs are kind of mapped to the particular radio model. In this Kenwood TS480, some of you are probably really familiar with it, but this TX meter and equalization. Well, I told you what the meter does. It shows like SWR when you're transmitting or just power output. And EQ is just the manual for the Kenwood TS480 would explain these, but basically sometimes it's good to boost your highs for equalization and stuff like that. So the online you can find the manual for the TS480, and for example, there's the explanation of the equalizer settings here and things like that. So anyway, let's see. What else do I need to talk about here? You can select, you tune on another frequency that's not busy. So normal HF remote usage. The TX button to transmit. I think on the other remote, it might be called TXD. The other Glenn's Kenwood TS480HX. The interfacing may have been slightly different. It might be called TXD for data, but that's what you use. Some users of these remotes, there's John connected as well. So there are 5 of us using them. So we're setting a record. Some users use this remote a lot for CW, and it's possible to interface a CW keyer to this, or when you're in CW mode, let's see. Oh, the CW speed applies here. We can select CW mode here. And I think when you're using CW, this Vox, it looks like it comes on automatically. Anyway, it's possible to use it for CW nicely. And, you can just send some text here or actually use a keyer. You have a lot of flexibility there. And some of the control devices, you can interface external CW keyer and tell it what COM port you might interface it to. So it's possible to use it in that way nicely. I have this one orb control device, which is one way to connect up a keyer with standard connections. Okay. And then, this is also important. For the 10 meter band, if we switch to 28 megahertz, the antenna is relevant here. Over time, we've added a couple of antennas. The antenna 1 is a G5RV that was added. How long ago was that added? Morris, are you there? That's probably 10 years ago. I don't hear Morris. Anyone know the history of that G5RV antenna that UARC put up there even before the remote was as kind of the start?
It preceded UARC.
Yeah, Steve and I put that up about 2006, 7, somewhere in that neighborhood.
Yeah, around 2006. That's incredible because it's still an awesome antenna. This antenna number 1 is just very versatile. This G5RV dipole that's there. And let's see, I could probably bring a picture of it here. Let's see. Okay, this is like from one of our work parties here when we put up the big beam antenna. I'll talk about it in a moment, but let's see if a far away picture here. Lots of fun activities up there. I don't see one right now, but
it can be hard to get a picture of a wire in the air.
That's true. Well, let's see. Let's just talk about antennas for a bit. This third one is a log periodic 8-element beam, and we added a rotator. And in order to get it up above these horn antennas, there's a 20-foot Rowan 55G extension on there. So that's been awesome. And there is room for maybe another 6-meter beam or something like that. But that's been an awesome antenna. That one was added just like a year or two ago. It survived like 90-mile-per-hour winds. The less kind of all sorts of stories, but a wind burst, let's see, a year ago blew it to the side. And so it was rotated and we had to go up there and fix that. But anyway, the G5RV goes from the side of this big 60-foot tower with the big platforms over to the hillside there. So that dipole is that way. And then the other antenna that we added in 2019 is an end-fed half-wave antenna that's like 264 feet long, and it goes kind of to the south there, over to the hillside. So that's where those wire antennas are located. And those are selected with this antenna selection here: 1, 2, 3. G5RV, end-fed half-wave, or log periodic beam. The end-fed half-wave is resonant even on the 160 meter band, but it's kind of designed like one of the previous UARC talks is by Mike WA7ARK, a former UARC president, and he talks about the kind of the theory behind this design of the end-fed half-wave with it's fed by a transformer. So it makes it usable and resonant on several of the ham bands. including 60 meters and 40, maybe the lower part of 40, compared to the G5RV is probably better on the upper portion of the 40 meter band. And then the log periodic beam is let's see, let's bring up the, I think it's in this one here it is right here. So this is an SWR plot of the end-fed half wave. So it's up and down all over the place, but it was designed and modeled such that the SWR is low, kind of around 1.8 megahertz, the 160 meter band. There's the 80, there's 40, and maybe a few others up there. So that's up and down there. But check out this 8-element log periodic beam. It's once you get to 14 megahertz. Okay, who in the audience can name these bands? What's 14 megahertz? Audience participation.
Everybody here says 20.
20. The consensus is that's the 20 meter band. Yeah, so it starts at the 20 meter band and goes all the way up to 28 megahertz. There's a little blip there, but what's that? What band is that? 10, of course. 14 times 2 is 28 megahertz. So it's useful on these bands, and boy, it's really good. If I bring up let's see, this is the server computer at Leamington right now. It's using VNC to remotely control it. I can see like the history of what everyone's done. And here's some communication, for example, W7GA, which Greg does a lot of SOTA work. He couldn't be here tonight, but he says he uses it a lot, including the log periodic beam. Let's see, what about the users on the Zoom call and stuff? What bands do you like to use it on? Gail, or go ahead.
There we go. Unmute. Yeah, I use it primarily on 40 meters. I check in the morning to the early bird net, and occasionally on 20 meters to the I think that's the Hawaii, California net, something like that. But very good. You mentioned the fact that if somebody doesn't reply, it's always interesting. I'm always working as I do things, and so I'm listening. And if you get into a net like the early bird net where you check in, and then it may be 20 minutes before they come back to you, then a lot of times I'm working on something, and every once in a while, Greg, you can probably remember his call sign, I can't, will come in and would like to use the remote. And so I don't see his request, and he's always very good about requesting it, and I just don't see it. And when I don't answer, then he goes ahead and he flips A and B and goes on. And usually he's left me a message saying, is it okay if I use this? I just need it for a couple of minutes. And I'll tell him, hey, I'm not going to be up again for another 10 or 15 minutes. Go ahead and take it. And if you don't get back to me, that's okay. I don't really need to check in anyway. And so that's kind of the way we've done it, is we've shared the remote.
Yeah, thank you. So yeah, it's good for convenient checking into nets, as well as the performance of like this log periodic beam. Like anybody else there want to share their experience, like on the 10 meter band? I've certainly used it to talk to the East Coast nicely, but how about you, Mel or John?
Gary, this is Mel Parks. I've used it quite a lot every day. I check into the beehive net on it, and I check into the farm net on 80 meters most evenings. But 10 meters has opened up this year, and it's been phenomenal how well it's been used. And I've been able to work 30 countries on 10 meters within the last 30 days.
Wow.
And it's really been phenomenal how well that big beam works. You point that to Europe, and you can work almost all the European countries. I've worked into Russia, Slovakia, a lot of the other countries that I've never been able to work before myself. So it's really a great tool and a great fun way to communicate.
Yeah, it kind of shows that, yeah, the antenna and the low noise environment really is a lot of power compared to, I mean, I'd like to add a legal limit amplifier. That'd give us another 10 dB, but really the main things, the foundation is there, a good site and good antennas. So it's been a fun project for lots of people. Let's see, what else did I want to say? You could try it interactively. So yeah, if you do use that antenna number 3, the log periodic beam, you can see people here. It's going to look through the log. See, bearing. Whenever I see this rotator bearing, that's somebody controlling the rotator. So if we go to the RC Forb control, this might be in the little Android app. There's kind of a little menu that selects rotator control, but in the Windows app, it's here, and you can change these and see. But I wonder if I could show. I've got a camera pointing at the beam, and it's fun to kind of watch the feedback. But basically, I think the green one shows the current orientation of the beam, and the red one is where you want it to go to. So you can make this, if I want it to go to the east, like I can just release that, and I think it goes automatically. So it's going to go all the way around, and that's rotating the antenna right now in live. Wonder if I could show this little, let's see. Okay. Anyway, so, hey, it got stuck. Why didn't it go all the way? This might be a perfect time to check the live camera we have on it. We just, on the building here, there's just a camera on the railing here pointed up at the tower, so we can kind of get some feedback and check on it. We have a plan on later this month, on May 27th. A bunch of us are going to go down and make a few upgrades, like calibrate the frequency of the radio. That's a big thing. But another thing we might do, there it goes. It's went east, anyway, let's see. Forgot what I was going to say. Anyway, that's how you control the rotator. And if I bring up the camera here, maybe I can let you see it. Just for kind of administration, we have a live check of this. This isn't going to work very well, but basically on the live camera, if I rotate it, I can see that the beam is rotating there.
We can't see what you can see because you're sharing, of course.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, yeah, it's okay. I'll stop sharing just briefly. Okay. This is a live view of Leamington right now. So there's the antenna. And if I rotate it back to east, let's check the orientation here. There it is. It's rotating as viewed from the building. So this is basically on the east side there. So it's coming around. There's the front of the tower of the antenna. It's rotating around. Ooh, I'm not sure. I think we might need to check the calibration of the orientation of the antenna, because I think right now it's actually pointing north, but the dial says it's east. So I think something might have been off on that, and we might need to fix that. So if any of you using the beam, you may need to add about 90 degrees to the...
The consensus here is that it is correct.
Oh, yeah? Why do you say that?
Because the camera is on the west side of the building, and it's pointing away from where the building is. That's what they were saying. But I'm always turned around by the bear. I don't have... there.
You might be right. Oh, I see. For the video on Zoom is inverted for me, so it's confusing me, and I thought that was the north side of the tower, not the east. So, okay. Thank you. You probably see that's funny. All right. Let's go back to sharing the screen with sound. Okay. So I covered that. Oh, and right now, another thing we definitely need to do is frequency calibration. Say something about that Clint. The radio that's there at Leamington does not have the temperature compensated crystal oscillator, and it was measured to be about 30 hertz low. So if you really want it to be on frequency, then tune about 30 hertz high until later this month when we're able to adjust that. So up 30 hertz like that, right, Clint?
Yeah, or just tune it till it sounds right.
Yeah. So that's kind of a thing we can fix later. The TS480HX radio at Glenn's Cabin in Fairview has it can output 200 watts. First of all, since it's the HX mode, it has an external tuner for that, the LDG 1000 or something that can handle that. And it also has the TCXO installed, so it is closer on frequency. Right, Glenn? Do you want to say anything about your remote?
Yeah, it's got the calibrated TCXO, so it's pretty good. But the other thing you got to point out, Gary, is where you have 3 antennas selected, you designed the system to be able to toggle between those 3 antennas. The native ability of a TS480 is 2 antennas.
Yeah.
And so the HX that I have at my cabin, one of them is a off-center fed dipole, which is fed through that remote tuner. And the other one is an end-fed half-wave, which has resonances similar to the 160-meter one you have there. So it doesn't require the tuner. But you were able to develop the handshake to be able to key the transmitter to activate the non-resident tuner. And so, Gary should be thanked for that.
Well, yeah, it's a group effort. Boy, we've had 20 or 30 people involved, and Clint and I were up at Glenn's Cabin and added some software that uses one of the pins, I think CTS or RTS on a serial port to activate that tuner. So we do have the source code, at least to the device driver interface portion of RC Forbes server. And if any of you are into software engineering and stuff, I'd be glad to show you the code. It's in C# in the .NET application and stuff like that. So there's also been a lot of cool hardware modifications. Like, is Chuck in the room? You could talk about the rotator control. I think in previous meetings, we've kind of covered some of it, but there's a lot of kind of custom switching and rotator control hardware that's compatible with kind of one of the interfaces that was supported in RC4. Do you want to say anything, Chuck, if you're there? Is Chuck there?
You catch everybody flat-footed when you want to talk to them. So
that's true. That's not very nice. Anyway, thank you, Chuck. It's been great working with him on kind of that relay switching and rotator control. We kind of tested that out in Salt Lake and just put it down there, and it just worked. I wanted to say,
when we started this, I volunteered to do the controller. So I started with one of the designs that Glenn Popeil did for the Arduino books, and I used most of his code and modified it a little bit. So when Gary, when you make the change there on that compass rose to rotate the antenna, it sends a message to the Arduino. The Arduino monitors the status of the antenna and rotates it to where you told it to go. And on top of that, I added a relay board for some extra functions. So, right there is the 2x1 switch with those red wires on it. So we put that up at the top. So that switches between antennas 2 and 3. The 480 has 2 outputs on it on the back of it, an A and B. So the G5RV is on A, and then B goes up the tower to this 2x1 switch that then selects between those two. So
upside down. Yeah, so this has been a fun project with lots of people there. So thank you, everybody, and get involved if you want to do more of this. I think
scroll the other way till you get to that pile of aluminum on my bench.
Okay.
There's the antenna in pieces as it came from.
James was up there on the tower with Clint, and Brett's also been doing tower work. So there's plenty of tower work to do, and it's great to have plenty of people to do that safely. So.
Yes. Above those piles of aluminum is Brian's machining to give us a tilt over base. So, yeah, it's been a big group effort. So we hauled the antenna down there in pieces. The longest element of that log periodic is 38 feet, and the boom is 18. So it's a monster.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. So, yeah, you make use of the remote, and it's utilized every day, but it's not too much contention, so it's not too hard to get time on it, and it's always available. I think there were some power issues, took it down for like a day or so, but other than that, it's been really solid. And there have been dropouts and audio and disconnections in the past, but about a month ago, the ISP changed out the 5 gigahertz transceiver that connects it to the internet. So I think it's better. So I'd like feedback on that. One thing while we've got this up, I wanted to show you on audio level, once we like tune somewhere, make sure it's not in use. This is KK7DV testing. See this line right here? If you use the microphone slider, you can increase your audio to make sure it's a good level right here. And it's not for some reason. I'm not sure. Normally, this is when I transmit, it would be kind of a little bit red right there. Okay, I have to get really close to my microphone, but you want your audio to kind of be kind of full like that. KK7DV testing. Try for a contact if we want.
NM7P testing.
There goes Mel. So yeah, it's good to kind of adjust your audio. And one thing that can be used for this, I guess we're still transmitting KK7DV. I guess either of us can unkey. But one thing I just wanted to say in conjunction with this remote, since there's no big spectrum display, it does make sense to use an SDR, like the Northern Utah Web SDR, sdrutah.org, and go to the band you're operating on. And let's see, we're on 3941 right now. So let's just bring up this and go to 3941. So this is useful for a couple of things, seeing the activity on the band and going right to it, and also seeing your signal. So let's see if this SDR, which is up in northern Utah here, oh, there you go. Mel is transmitting, and we can see his signal right there.
NM7P test.
So this gives you a good idea to make sure you're getting out. And you can use other SDRs, QE SDRs, and web SDRs in different places to make sure you're getting where you want to go. You want to say anything about that, Clint?
No, that's been covered in the meeting.
Yeah. So a lot of good past UARC meetings are relevant here with the web SDR and stuff like that. Okay. Well, it's 8:42. How long would we want to go? And do we have any questions?
Let's see, start winding it down and making final comments, but we're not imminent. We're okay for a few minutes.
Yeah. So yeah, dive in and try it out at least. It's always best to have your own radio at home, really understand the system. But this is fairly open. It's a club project, and everybody can get involved and really understand how everything's hooked up. So it's kind of like operating the radio, so you can be familiar with it at least, even if it's not at your home station. So, and it's good as a convenient backup, even while I kind of push the limits and use these remotes even while I'm mobile and depending on cell phone coverage. And sometimes that can result in dropouts with the use of voice over IP. But other than that, especially when you have a good internet connection at home, this is a good way to use a remote radio. These sliders are relevant here I'm not too familiar myself with frequency shift. Is this a lot of you are probably more familiar with HF than I am, but what is frequency shift used for, Clint?
That's the equivalent of the passband tuning on most radios, I believe.
Yeah. And here's mic gain is, I guess these days people seem to like it at 100%, but we could.
Well, you have two mic gains. You have the mic gain on the radio and you have one up there on the app.
Those are separate. And the RF RF gain is kind of, if you want it to be kind of quieting, I sometimes bump this down, but if you're ever hearing like nothing or something, then make sure that's up. Yeah. Could put it at 100. RF power. Sometimes oh, this is another topic that I could mention. Digital modes. Of course, CW is a digital mode and it's used with Leamington all the time. But FT8 and FT4 are a bit problematic because of the RC4 software implementation. The codec, if it hears a pure tone after about 10 or 20 seconds, it starts to distort, and it's just a digital artifact. So even though it's technically possible to interface WSJTX on your local computer with RC4 client and use the radio, we're saying that's not really officially recommended or allowed because of this known codec issue. For experimentation, I tested it out and got some contacts with like Argentina and Europe, no problem, on FT8. So it is possible in a couple different ways to operate digital modes with this. Maybe that's a future topic we could work on, because it's topic with software, audio cable, virtual audio cable software. It's possible to run WSJT on your own system. I also, by remotely controlling the computer here at Leamington, this is kind of to monitor the UPS battery backup system, and this is the hardware there. Anyway, it's possible to just run programs on here and use the radio, but that can't be shared the way RC4 allows us. So that was just an experiment when I used FT8 and FT4 on the Leamington remote.
Gary, I have a couple of comments.
Oh, go ahead.
One of them is the hams that are not in UARC that have joined the club to be able to access the remotes.
Yeah.
Often they are veterans who are confined to, facilities. There's no way they could get on the air. And they've been very grateful for the use of these. And I've seen a bit of correspondence, and I don't know how many have joined outside of the Utah area, but also a lot of people don't have a site that's quiet enough anymore with all the noise that's around to be able to use it. So these have been very useful to those types of individuals.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes, indeed. Yes. Here's RC4 Observer, and it shows activity list. I can set like command. Oh, whenever anyone disconnects, it shows disconnects. So I can just search for that in order to see kind of who has been using it. And we can see KF0AUV. He was on this meeting earlier. He's in Minnesota and involved with as a net control for the farm net. So he likes using this. And I think a guy in California, maybe he hasn't been using it as often lately, but W6IIS, I believe, Mike likes using it for a California Western Public Service System net because Leamington hears so well. And in some cases, it can even outperform the Northern Utah Web SCR based on geography and stuff. So it is quite sensitive, and people like it for that. But anyway, this kind of shows, if you look at the dates here, here's the 11th today. There's a number, just 10 or 20 people using it today, and maybe some days, maybe fewer, 10 people. And there's maybe just, so that's kind of gives you an idea of usage. But yeah, a lot of these are KF0 AUV. It's in Minnesota. And so right now it's open to everyone. And it's kind of nice to supplement, to grow UARC to be a little bit beyond Utah. Mm-hmm.
Hey, Gary, I got a comment too.
Oh, yeah. Laird. Oh, you talk about all you've done on the roof maintenance and stuff. The owner of the Leamington site's been really appreciative of you heading that up, Laird, and lots of people have really helped out with the site maintenance as well. Go ahead.
I was going to mention that as well, but there's those that like to work on the tower. I'm not one of those, but when you're up there, we need ground support, which is kind of a critical. And besides that, we're also helping maintain the road up and down the canyon, so it keeps it open and weed free. We keep the weeds back in the building, so we don't have any fire issues with that, going on down there.
Yeah.
So there's a lot to do. We've worked on the roof as well, but there's lots of things to do. If you want to come down and help and just get involved, besides being up on that tower, there is lots of to help. That happens to be my by the way. Mike's caulking the roof. That's Mike McCanish.
There's Mike. You want to say anything, Mike? I'm putting everybody on the spot. And we have these work parties have been fun. Sometimes I tend to send out email to lots of people but anyway, it's been great to have some good food and company up there.
It's been a fun way to spend a weekend or a Saturday morning, past Saturday afternoon to go meet and talk and socialize. It's a great,
Bruce.
Lots of things to do. Working on the antennas is one thing, the radios is another, but the building maintenance and that kind of stuff is important as well. We've stopped some pretty sizable leaks on the roofs. So, yeah,
I think in 2019 when we put up that infant half wave, Gordon Smith, K7HFE was involved. And lots of people flew in from Oregon and Arizona. It's just been a good project historically. Yeah,
Gary, I've got a quick comment. Mel Parks.
Go ahead, Mel.
I've been looking at some of the other East Coast sites that do these remote stations.
Yeah, you mean for transmitting or just receive? Mm-hmm.
Transmit and receive.
Yeah.
And one of the interesting comments I've found, I've looked at actually joining some of them, and many of you may not understand what a wonderful deal we have financially. Most of these big sites that have multiple towers and multiple antennas want a membership fee of at least $100 a year, and they charge a fee for how many minutes you're using certain antennas in certain parts of their system.
Wow.
Our group only requires membership, and I know there's been some discussion whether we should charge others outside our club who join from other areas, whether we should actually have a different fee. But at the present time, it's the best deal in the United States.
That's good. Let's keep it that way, and that's great. Utah is good deals in Utah. Yeah. So yeah, it's been fun. There's future possibilities, maybe an additional antenna, and any brainstorming time. Anything else we might want to do? Mm-hmm.
Well, the thing is I guess we have a 6-meter antenna on order to install later this year. I think it's on back order for a while.
Yeah. What about an SDR at Leamington, so that you have the SDR functionality of seeing everything on the band at the same time as you have the transmitter? What do you think? I mean, it would just be for the one user, mainly for benefit of the user controlling the remote.
There are ways to do that, but we'll have to figure it out. Yeah, we can figure that out later. Brett and I have talked over that, and there are ways to make it happen.
Sounds good. Good snow in the winter. We've been up even in December. It's kind of in central Utah. You can get up there, but yeah, it does. Oh, I think there's also on that page at the HF remote, I provided a link to the weather station that's up there that we added a few years ago. It has a sonic anemometer, which has withstood the winter there, but Paul did a presentation on RF exposure calculations. We kind of did that for the HF remotes, so that page is on there. But I was saying that the weather station link is right here. For both Leamington and Fairview, you can just bring up see what the weather is and like if the wind's strong. There's been an occasion I get alerts if the wind is too strong, above. Well, now that we've saw that it could withstand some high temperatures, the alert threshold is pretty high, like 70 miles per hour. But I do fix the rotator so that the wind blows across with the elements when it's up there. So right now it's 56 degrees there at Leamington, and winds just 5 miles per hour. It got up to 29 today. So there's that stuff. That's fun to look at the graphs. All right. Any other questions?
Okay, I'll repeat a question. Go ahead.
Beyond the user selectable preamp on the board, is there any other preamplification on the
What he asked is, other than what's built into the FT480, are there any amplifiers on the receive in the line? And the quick answer is no, because we can hear the whole band anyway, so there's no need for amplification. The feed line going up to the antenna is some kind of hard line in most cases, so the losses are negligible as well.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, I think our main limit is site noise, which isn't zero, but it's quieter than most people's houses. Any other? Right. Any other questions? I'm looking around here. So I'm swiveling. I think that about does it. You covered it very thoroughly, Gary.
Okay, good. Yeah, here's the whole building, and there's the kind of the cabinet with the equipment. This bulkhead is awesome here. You know, the Western Electric and AT&T knew how to make things heavy duty, so it's really neat to have such a large site, not just a small building. Although our small buildings, like at Scotts Hill, is pretty neat too to have those. But this is a more like a big work site, like Barnsworth type. Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, I'll turn it back to you. So thanks a lot. Just keep in touch, and let's make good use of them. The remotes, both of them.
Excellent. Thank you. One thing I'll mention, this is a club facility. It's available to club members. The way to get access to it is send an email to me and request it. I will confirm your license class, because remember, you're going to be on HF. And then forward that to James to check for your membership, and then to Gary to authorize you. And this usually happens within a day or so. So, anything else, or we're done? Okay, go home.
Prizes. Yeah.
Oh, prizes. Okay.
Everybody get a ticket? If you didn't get a ticket, right here. You didn't get your ticket in the bucket, too late.
Yes.
Does anybody know about the balloon launch last Saturday? If they found the package? Because it landed in...
Gary does, actually.
And it landed in Idaho.
I don't know if Gary's still here.
Yeah, I'm still here. I could send out a further follow-up to the UARC mailing list, but basically, yeah, it flew for a few hours, went a little bit farther east than was expected, so it was in the hills east of Franklin. And I haven't heard if the guys went just right up to it where there was snow, and it was up in the tree about 20 or 30 feet. So they didn't recover it on Saturday, but they were going to make another trip over this week. I'll bet that it's been recovered now, and we'll probably get video of that pretty soon from the payloads. Yeah, those are neat projects.
Tell them.
Yeah, it's been recovered. They're telling me. I watched it on APRS Saturday. It was really interesting to see the balloon go up in altitude and then come down.
Great. Where did you hear that it was recovered? Was that from Tyler or Kevin? But that's, or what? Okay, sounds good.
Tyler. Okay. I think we have 8. Is that right?
Yes.
Yes. Chuck says yes.
Second. Let's see, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
KI7 PQR. Here's one with no name on it. It ends in 516. K6RVJ, I believe. KF7YGV. Here's another one without a name. Its number ends in 517. KD7NZA. KA7TPH. I don't even like that guy. KD4UPD. We need another one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Randy, WI7P, is that correct, Randy? Yep.
I just pick one. Yeah, you got one of three.
All right. It's first come, first serve. Come on down. There's one more. Who's missing? Going once, going twice. Okay, we'll draw another one. WJ3RI. All right. Okay. Remember the meeting before the meeting next month? We will meet at Litza's Pizza. Jerry, are we going to do that at 5:30 or at 6?
So they would like us to kind of arrive at once if we can. So let's say 5:45, and we'll probably get seated by 6.
Okay, 5:45 at Litza's Pizza next month for the meeting before the meeting. And remember, we're looking for volunteers to help us with field day. We seriously need some guys, okay? Thank you.